Imagine stepping onto a plane, the hum of engines just starting to purr, and sliding into a first-class seat at 11 years old. Not just any kid, but a black girl who built a billion-dollar tech empire from her bedroom in Detroit. That's me, Amara Jenkins. And let me tell you, the world may have changed, but first class on that flight, it was a battlefield, and I was right in the middle, feeling every stare like a spotlight burning my skin. My channel MidnightTales is all about stories like this, where the underdog rises, fights, and rewrites the rules. So buckle up, because this tale of a single plane ride is about to take you somewhere wild. It was dawn at Detroit Metro, the terminal buzzing with tired travelers and the clatter of rolling suitcases. My dad, Marcus, and I moved through the crowd like we'd done 100 times before. Passports stamped from Tokyo to London to Singapore. No one knew who we were, and that's how we liked it. My company, Dreamscape, had been splashed across Forbes and TechCrunch, but Dad made sure my face stayed out of the headlines. Let your work speak, he'd say, not your age or how you look. He handed me my boarding pass for seat 2A, his own ticket for economy 3 rows back, a world away. Push the button if you need me, he said, his voice steady but heavy with the love and worry that always shadowed us. I walked into first class, the luxury bubble of leather seats, soft lighting, and smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes unless you looked like you belonged. I'd learned to carry myself tall, to keep my voice calm, to smile just enough to put people at ease. My NASA pajamas were long gone, traded for a sharp blazer, but I was still the kid who coded on 3 monitors, who pitched 2 rooms full of old-school tech investors and watched their jaws drop. Dreamscape, my platform, was about to revolutionize how people connect, learn, and create. And we were days away from a funding round that could make it global. But none of that mattered to the man who stormed into first class, his boarding pass flapping like a flag of entitlement. Richard Blackwell, all sharp suit and sharper voice, decided I couldn't possibly belong in his world. I paid for first class, he snapped, as if his ticket could erase mine. He loomed over me, demanding the flight attendant, Sandra, check my boarding pass again. I sat still, clutching the pass. My dad's words echoing, never give up your seat so someone else can feel comfortable with their prejudice. Sandra, cool as ice, confirmed I was in the right seat. Miss Jenkins is correctly seated, she said, but Richard wasn't having it. His voice carried, loud enough to turn heads. I never fly economy, he declared, as if that settled it. Whispers rippled through the cabin, and I felt that old, sharp sting of being seen as the problem. The kid who didn't fit. My dad appeared, steady as a mountain, his hand on my shoulder. My daughter's seat was purchased weeks ago, he said, every word measured, every muscle tight. His eyes locked on Richard, then flicked to Sandra, caught between policies and people. The other passengers had already decided I was the disruption, their glances heavy with judgment. But one woman, Elizabeth Montgomery, gray hair and sharp eyes, gave me a real smile from across the aisle, not the polite kind, but the kind that says, I see you. I smiled back, grateful for the brief warmth in that cold cabin. Then Elizabeth did something I'll never forget. She stood, looked Richard dead in the eye, and said, perhaps I might offer my seat. That would solve the issue, wouldn't it? The cabin went silent. Richard, caught off guard, grumbled but took the out, sliding into her seat while Elizabeth moved to Economy Plus like it was nothing. I caught her wink as she passed, a spark of defiance that felt like a lifeline. The plane took off, and I tried to focus, sketching ideas for Dreamscape's next feature, accessibility for visually impaired kids. Richard, still sulking, glanced over and asked what I was drawing. I explained, and for a split second, the wall between us thinned. He leaned closer, curious despite himself. But turbulence hit, the kind that rattles your teeth and scrambles your thoughts. My coo, Zoe, appeared like she always does when I need her, helping me breathe through the panic. You good? She asked, not as an employee, but as family. That's when the whispers started again. Did she say she works for the kid? Richard's eyes widened as he pieced it together. Then the real chaos hit. The captain called me to the cockpit, never a good sign. Security has a concern, he said. Someone had called in a tip, claiming I was traveling under false identification, that my dad was using me as a front for illegal business. The timing, exactly 20 minutes after the seat dispute. I didn't need to guess who made the call. The plane was diverted to Oakland, and as we descended, my heart pounded like it was trying to escape. FBI agents boarded, escorting me, Dad, and Zoe off the plane while Richard sat sweating in his seat, pale as milk. We answered their questions. In a stark airport office, my dad's calm voice holding us together, Zoe's fierce loyalty like a shield. Then our lawyer, Diane, stormed in, fire in her eyes and a folder in her hand. This isn't random, she said. There's a pattern. Every black-led tech company about to secure major funding gets hit with these accusations, all traced to one group, Techcore Ventures. Here's where it gets wilder. Elizabeth, the woman from the plane, wasn't just a kind stranger. She'd been a VP at Techcore, but quit the day before, and now she was blowing the whistle. She'd slipped Dad a USB drive during their quiet conversation in economy. filled with evidence of Tekor's campaign of sabotage and lies against companies like mine. Richard, racked with guilt, confessed his company, recently acquired by Tekor, had been part of meetings to take us down. He handed over documents, trying to get ahead of the fallout. Diane took it all, building a case that would shake the industry. The next morning, I stood before Sunk's board, Elizabeth now at my side as an ally. We pitched Dreamscape's vision, not just as a platform but as a movement to give everyone a seat at the table. We won the funding. We won their public support. And as the news broke of the FBI's investigation into Tekor, the world saw what so many try to hide, how power bends the rules to protect itself. 6 months later, I stood on a stage in Detroit, launching Dreamscape's Global Access Initiative. The crowd was packed with kids who looked like me, teachers, parents, even Elizabeth, and a changed, humbled Richard. A little girl raised her hand and asked, "What do I say when people tell me I'm too young to code?" I looked at her, saw myself, and said, "Tell them age is just a number. Show them what you can do, because that's the only way anything ever changes." That moment felt like the culmination of everything: the plane, the stairs, the accusations, the fight. It started with a seat in first class but became so much bigger, a battle for who gets to shape the future. That's my story, but it's not just mine. It's the story of anyone who's been told they don't belong, who's felt the weight of doubt, the push of prejudice, the block of a system that wasn't built for them. On Midnight Tales, we share these stories to remind you that you're not alone. I was 11, a black girl from Detroit, and I turned a first-class fight into a global movement. What's your story? Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. Tell me how you've fought to claim your seat. And let's talk about what justice really means when the doors finally open for all of us. Subscribe to Midnight Tales, hit that bell, and let's keep telling the stories that change the world.